You sold Shadow. My voice cracked as I stared at my mother standing in our empty stable. The fresh hay I'd brought back from the feed store fell from my arms, scattering across the concrete floor. Katie needs a car for college, my mother replied dismissively, checking her manicured nails. That horse was eating up all our savings and boarding fees and competition costs. It's time you grew up, Alexandra. I'm Alexandra Bennett, and at 17, I just lost my best friend, my horse Shadow, a black Arabian I'd trained since he was a difficult 3-year-old colt that nobody wanted. But he's mine. I paid for half of him with my summer job money. I protested, my hands shaking. We have competitions coming up. Where is he? Who did you sell him to? The Hendersons. They have that big ranch outside of town. My mother waved her hand dismissively. They paid cash, and Katie gets her new car. Everyone wins. Everyone except me, I whispered, but she was already walking away, her heels clicking on the stable floor. You'll get over it, she called over her shoulder. Katie needs this car for her future. That horse was just a hobby. Just a hobby. 4 years of early mornings, mucking stalls, training sessions, and competitions reduced to just a hobby. While my perfect sister Katie got everything handed to her on a silver platter. I ran to my room, slamming the door behind me. The walls were covered in ribbons and photos, Shadow and me clearing jumps, performing dressage patterns, standing proudly in winner's circles. We qualified for the state championships next month. All that work, all those dreams, gone because Katie needed a car. My phone buzzed. It was Jake, my trainer, probably wondering why we hadn't shown up for our afternoon session. Alex, where are you guys? Shadow's stall is empty. I tried to keep my voice steady as I explained what happened, but the tears came anyway. She what? Jake's usually calm voice rose in disbelief. Alex, did your mother tell the Hendersons about Shadow's breeding? About his competition record? I doubt it, I sniffled. She never paid attention to any of that. Why? Jake was quiet for a moment. Because Shadow isn't just any horse, Alex. His bloodline. Remember those papers we traced last year? The ones that confirmed his sire? I remembered. We'd spent weeks tracking down Shadow's lineage after a judge at a competition had commented on his remarkable similarity to a famous stallion. His sire was Almera, I said. But what does that matter now? It matters, Jake said firmly, because Almera's offspring are worth 6 figures minimum. How much did your mother sell him for? My heart stopped. She said she got enough for Katie's car. Maybe 20,000. Jake swore under his breath. Alex, Shadow's worth at least 10 times that. More, with his competition record. Your mother just gave away a small fortune. I sat down hard on my bed, staring at the latest photo of Shadow and me. It was from last month's qualifying competition, where we'd scored higher than any other junior rider in the state. The Hendersons, Jake continued, they're good people, but they buy horses for trail riding. They have no idea what they've got. We need to. A commotion downstairs interrupted my thoughts. I could hear my mother's voice, rising in that false sweet tone she used when trying to smooth over problems. What do you mean, papers? Of course he has papers. He's a registered Arabian. I crept to the top of the stairs, phone still pressed to my ear. Through the open front door, I could see Mrs. Henderson, a tall woman in riding clothes, holding a folder of documents. Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Henderson's voice was sharp. This horse you sold us? We had our vet out for a standard check, and he nearly fell over when he saw the registration numbers. Do you have any idea what horse you actually sold? My mother's laugh turned nervous. He's just a show horse. My daughter did some local competitions. Local competitions? Mrs. Henderson opened the folder. Your daughter and this horse are ranked first in the state for junior riders. He's sired by Almera, one of the most prestigious Arabian stallions in the country. We've already had 3 calls from breeding farms offering to buy him for well over 6 figures. I could practically hear my mother's jaw hit the floor. 6 figures? The sale contract, Mrs. Henderson continued, pulling out a paper. It's not valid. You didn't have the right to sell him in the first place. The registration shows joint ownership between you and Alexandra Bennett. Without her signature, this sale isn't legal. From my perch at the top of the stairs, I could see Katie standing in the doorway of the living room, dangling her new car keys. She wasn't smiling anymore. Jake, I whispered into the phone, what happens now? Now? I could hear the smile in his voice. Now things get interesting. Stay where you are. I'm coming over with some paperwork of my own. The next hour was chaos. My mother paced the living room, alternating between trying to charm Mrs. Henderson and shooting venomous looks my way. Katie sat sullenly on the couch, her precious car keys now lying forgotten on the coffee table. Surely we can work something out, my mother said for the 10th time. Alexandra is a minor. I have the right to make decisions about her property. Not in this case. Jake's voice cut through as he strode into our house, carrying a leather portfolio. I have here the original purchase agreement from when Shadow was bought. Alex paid half from her own earnings, making her legal co-owner. It's all properly notarized. My mother's face turned an interesting shade of red. You had no right to help her make that agreement. Actually, I had every right as her trainer and as the seller's agent. Jake laid out the documents on our dining room table. Alex has been my student for 4 years. In that time, she and Shadow have won over 30 championships and qualified for state finals. Their breeding value alone is worth more than this house. Mrs. Henderson nodded approvingly. That's why I'm here. Not to cause trouble, but to do what's right. This horse deserves to be competing, not trailing around our ranch with beginners. I finally found my voice. So, what happens now? Nah, Jake said. We void this illegal sale. Mrs. Henderson gets her money back and Shadow comes home. He paused, looking at my mother. Unless you prefer to explain to the Arabian Horse Association why you illegally sold a champion horse without proper authorization. My mother's face went from red to white. But Katie's car is not my problem, Mrs. Henderson cut in. I've already called my bank to stop payment on the check. Shadow will return to his rightful owner today. Katie jumped up from the couch. This isn't fair. I need that car for college. Alex doesn't need some stupid horse. Actually, Jake pulled out another document. Alex and Shadow are eligible for the Junior Rider Scholarship Program. Their rankings practically guarantee it. Full college tuition, plus competition expenses. The room went silent. I'd known about the scholarship possibility, but hadn't told my family. They never came to my competitions anyway. Full tuition? My mother whispered, her materialistic mind clearly spinning. Plus expenses, Jake confirmed. But only if they compete in states next month, which means Shadow needs to come home today. Mrs. Henderson pulled out her phone. My son is already on his way with the trailer. He should be here in 20 minutes. My mother collapsed into a chair, her perfect world crumbling. All these years, she dismissed my riding as an expensive hobby, favoring Katie's cheerleading and social activities. Now she was realizing just how wrong she'd been. But I already told everyone about my new car, Katie whined. I posted it on Instagram. Then I suggest you post an update, Jake said dryly. Perhaps about how you almost cost your sister a college scholarship? I looked at the documents spread across the table. Proof of Shadow's lineage, his competition records, the scholarship information. All this time, I'd been quietly building something remarkable while my family was too busy fawning over Katie to notice. The sound of a horse trailer pulling into our driveway broke the tension. Through the window, I could see Shadow's black head poking out, his ears perked forward. He knew he was coming home. Alexandra, my mother started, her tone switching to the sweet voice she used when she wanted something. Darling, perhaps we could discuss this. Surely there's a way to benefit the whole family. No, I said firmly, surprising myself. Shadow is mine. My work, my training, my future. You can figure out Katie's car situation without stealing from me. Mrs. Henderson smiled approvingly. The horse world could use more young riders like you, Alexandra. Strong, dedicated, and principled. Jake gathered the documents, keeping the originals safely in his portfolio. I'll help you get Shadow settled back in. And tomorrow, we start preparing for states. You've got a scholarship to win. As we walked out to the trailer, I could hear my mother and Katie arguing inside the house. For once, I didn't care. The drama wasn't my problem anymore. Shadow nickered softly as I approached, reaching his velvet nose toward me. 4 years of early mornings, endless training sessions, and complete dedication had created something extraordinary. Not just a champion horse, but a partnership that was about to open doors I'd only dreamed of. Let's go home, boy, I whispered, stroking his neck. We've got work to do. The month leading up to state championships was a whirlwind. While my mother and Katie dealt with the fallout of their failed car scheme, I focused entirely on training with Shadow. Our morning sessions started at dawn, and every afternoon was spent perfecting our routines. Home became a battlefield of cold shoulders and bitter comments. Katie had to settle for a used Honda instead of her dream car, and she blamed me entirely. My mother alternated between trying to guilt me about breaking up the family and making awkward attempts to show interest in my writing now that she knew its value. I could come to States, she said one morning, trying to sound casual as I packed my gear. Support you and, what's the routine again? Advanced dressage and show jumping, I replied, not looking up. But don't worry about it. Jake's family is handling everything. The truth was, Jake's parents had become more of a family to me than my own. His mother helped me prepare my competition outfits, and his father, a retired veterinarian, made sure Shadow was in peak condition. The day of States dawned clear and cool. Shadow loaded easily into Jake's trailer, his coat gleaming black in the early morning light. As we pulled out of the driveway, I saw my mother watching from the window, but I didn't wave. The competition grounds were buzzing with activity. Riders from across the state led magnificent horses between practice rings and stabling areas. In the past, I'd felt intimidated by the wealthy competitors with their expensive tack and professional grooms. Now, walking Shadow toward our assigned stall, I held my head high. We earned our place here. Alexandra Bennett, a woman in a blazer, approached us, holding a clipboard. I'm Margaret Wells from the Scholarship Committee. We're very interested in your performance today. Jake stepped forward, handling the conversation smoothly while I focused on settling Shadow in. But I caught phrases that made my heart race. Exceptional qualifying scores, breeding potential, full academic scholarship. As I prepared for our first event, I saw a familiar car pull into the parking area. My mother and Katie stepped out, looking completely out of place in their designer clothes. They hovered uncertainly at the edge of the warm-up ring, watching as Shadow and I moved through our pre-competition exercises. Don't let them distract you, Jake said quietly, adjusting my saddle one last time. Remember what we've worked for. Our dressage test was first. As we entered the arena, everything else fell away. The crowd, the judges, my family's drama. It was just Shadow and me, moving as one through the intricate patterns we practiced countless times. His hooves seemed to float above the ground, each transition smooth as silk. When we finished, the applause was thunderous. I caught a glimpse of the judges' faces. They were smiling, actually smiling. Even my mother looked impressed, though she probably didn't understand what she just witnessed. The show jumping course was next. Shadow's ears pricked forward as we studied the challenging layout. Double combinations, tight turns, and imposing oxers waited to test us. But we were ready. As we cleared the final jump, the crowd erupted. We'd gone clear with one of the fastest times of the day. Jake was beaming as we left the ring, and Mrs. Wells was already making notes on her clipboard. The awards ceremony felt surreal. Standing on the highest podium, gold medals around both my neck and Shadow's, I finally let myself cry. We'd done it. State champions in both disciplines. But the real prize came after. Mrs. Wells presented me with an envelope containing a full scholarship to any university of my choice, plus funding for continued training and competition with Shadow. Your sister might have gotten a car, Jake whispered, but you've got wings now. My mother pushed through the crowd, Katie trailing behind her. Alexandra, darling, this is wonderful. I always knew you had potential. Perhaps now we could discuss sharing some of the competition earnings. Actually, I cut her off. All competition earnings go into Shadow's care and my education fund. It's part of the scholarship contract. I patted Shadow's neck. Isn't it amazing what a stupid hobby can become when someone believes in it? The look on their faces was priceless. 4 years of dismissing my passion, of favoring Katie's every whim, and now they were seeing the results of their choices. That evening, as I brushed Shadow in his stall, surrounded by our ribbons and medals, I felt nothing but peace. Tomorrow, I would start looking at universities, planning my future in equestrian sports. My mother and sister would have to figure out their own paths. We did it, boy, I whispered to Shadow, who nickered softly in response. We showed them all what we're worth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's soaring so high that those who doubted you become nothing but tiny specks below. Shadow and I had found our wings, and we were never coming down.